Welcome to Compassion Speaks, where we give a voice to the nonprofits in the community. I'm your host, Stephanie Player, and today on our show we have Christy Iannucci, and she's from Community Counseling Centers. Welcome, Christy.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on. I'm excited to have you on. May is actually an awareness month for mental health. Is that right?
That's correct, yes. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, which is really important because, and I know we're going to talk a little bit more about this today, but there's a lot of stigma still around mental health, so that's what kind of the Awareness Month is about.
Right, and that's why I wanted to have you on, because I think it's important that we educate the community on mental health and have that stigma reduced and or eliminated is the ultimate goal, because we want people to be able to reach out for help if they need it without having that stigma attached.
Absolutely.
And keeping them. So let's just jump into, there might be people that are viewing in today that aren't familiar with community counseling centers. So let's just kind of jump into who is CCC. We'll call you guys CCC for short.
Yes, so CCC is the short acronym that a lot of people like to use to refer to us, because community counseling centers, to say that over and over, can get kind of long.
Yes.
But yeah, so CCC, we have been actually serving Navajo County since 1966, which a lot of people don't know. So this year is our 50-year anniversary serving Navajo County. Started off very small in Winslow, Arizona, actually, just to give you a little history, and was opened as the Winslow Guidance Clinic, and then ultimately became Community Counseling Center. So we've had a presence here for some time, but we are a behavioral health provider, so we provide a wide range of services that are related to behavioral health, such as counseling, which is in our name. So counseling is a big foundation of what we do. We do all kinds of individual counseling, family counseling, couples counseling, a wide range of groups that are very important. We do substance abuse counseling and treatment as well, and we also have kind of the other side of our services are the more medical oriented. So we are actually the only provider here in Navajo County with psychiatrists on staff. So if a PCP needs to refer someone to see a psychiatrist for more specialty kind of evaluation and care, we have psychiatrists on staff. We also do telemedicine, which is unique to offer more psychiatrists on our staff. So we have a psychiatric nurse practitioner, for example, that she lives in Texas, but she specializes in working with children. And so she's able to meet with children over telemedicine, and it's really neat because we're able to bring some real specialty care to our rural area to offer those services through telemedicine. So
that's huge.
That's
awesome.
Huge.
Very nice. I didn't even realize, and I've been familiar with CCC for quite some time, I didn't realize that you guys had such a vast variety of services that you provided, and that you were the only ones up here with psychiatrists to offer to the community.
Right, absolutely. No, I mean, it is surprising. I mean, I haven't even touched on everything, and we're continuing to look to expand. I mean, that's one of the things you hear a lot about in our rural community is it's tough when you're in a rural area to have lack of services. So we're, whereas a lot of times in the larger markets people specialize in certain things, we're really trying to branch out and be able to offer and bring some of those services that you wouldn't otherwise see in a rural area here. Another thing I can think of, for example, is we do a lot of housing programs, and so we have 3 kind of different tier levels of housing programs for people that are enrolled with us. That are we have independent housing for those that maybe just need a case manager to check in with them, and we're ultimately trying to get them kind of back ultimately out on their feet into regular housing. Then we have semi-supervised housing, where we have staff there during daytime hours to work with people to get on life skills, cooking, nutrition, budgeting, how to balance your checkbook. Wow. And then we just opened up recently our group home, which is fully supervised 24/7. So we have different tiers, and again, it's bringing those services. So people, a lot of times what's happened before we opened our group home just this past year, is we'd have to send people out of area, and so people are away from their families where they're not familiar with, and having to get services out of Phoenix or Flagstaff. So we're really trying to expand some of that here locally. And one of the other things that comes up a lot too that's lacking in our community is services for children, and it's a problem throughout Arizona, behavioral health services for children and youth. And so a lot of times what's happening is we're having to send them again to the valley. That's where they have some residential treatment facilities. But what we're trying to do here right now is launch a program called therapeutic foster care, which would basically, it's a form of foster care, but it requires that the families have either previous experience working in regular foster care, or maybe a teacher or a nurse who has experience in healthcare or working with youth, be in the home. It pays a little bit higher level for the families, but we're looking to recruit families to be a therapeutic foster home. So as opposed to these children, sometimes they're waiting in our ER here 48, 72 hours before they can find somewhere to send them. But if we can have a foster home that's trained in that and then work with our staff to come in the home, we can maybe keep these children in their schools and not have to send them away to the valley to a facility.
Right. Wow. Well, amazing things that you guys have obviously recognized what the needs are in the community, and you're working to fill those gaps that exist in a lot of communities out there.
Absolutely.
So that way people don't have to travel off of the mountain to seek these services, which can be a huge burden. It can result in having to relocate, like you mentioned, and then now where's their support system? Right. They're having to start over in a brand new area where they don't know anybody, they don't know the town, and that can be hindering to the progress that they're trying to make in their lives. So wow, good stuff there. So I kind of want to segue now, because we talked about the mental health stigma that's out there, and this has been persistent, for many years now. It's gotten better over the years. Right. But there's still that residual stigma that exists there. So maybe we can talk about some statistics of mental health issues, who it affects, who it impacts, and really help to show our viewers that this is not an uncommon thing. People experience this to some degree on a pretty large scale. So
absolutely.
What are those numbers? What can you share with us about that?
So again, there still is a lot of fear in our community about mental illness. I mean, it's everywhere. It's in our community. It's nationwide. A lot of it, I think, has to do with the media. Unfortunately, when mental illness gets on the news, it's when something tragic has happened. And, but that really is not the norm of mental illness. And so if you actually look at some figures, they say that 1 in 5 adults or in their lifetime will experience some form of mental illness, which is mind-boggling to think 1 in 5.
That's
and then basically they say because 1 in 5, there's not really a person out there that hasn't been touched by mental illness in some form, because if it's 1 in 5, it means someone in your family, someone that you work with, your friends, someone you go to school with, is probably, has some form of mental illness. Some of the other statistics that show, they said, that 7% was, I think, 6.9% of Americans in 2014 had suffered from a form of depression, had one major depression episode. So that, it's everywhere. I think, there's a lot of fear. People think, oh, mental illness is just for those people that, you hear, oh, they're crazy, they have their screws loose. But, our vets are a perfect example. And, these are individuals that are serving our country, and they come back and they experience certain things. It can be things in our life, trauma that we encounter, whether it's, domestic violence, things that our vets deal with that can trigger PTSD or things that is a form of mental illness. So it's not that there's anything that is their fault or that's wrong, and there's still so much shame, and it's really, really sad because, statistics also show that because of the stigma around mental illness, people go, I don't want to be the crazy person. That there's a shame. It's, there's not shame if you get diabetes and you need to go see your PCP for some treatment. Why is there that same shame for mental illness? For someone that served our country and is now suffering from PTSD, it shouldn't be there. And because of that, the statistics actually show there's really only about 40% of people that are getting treatment for their mental illness. Wow. And, we actually had a staff member that recently shared a story with me about their own grandfather, and he had lost his wife. and he started to suffer from some depression. The family was just, no, there's nothing wrong with you. You just need to suck it up. Because again, it's some of that, you don't want to admit that maybe, okay, I'm suffering from depression, but because she worked with us, she was able to say, you know what, come in and it's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. Right. And he was able to get the help and overcome that. And so it's been a huge blessing for the family. Now the family's learned that, wow, this really can make a difference. There's nothing to worry about. So,
well, what a wonderful story, and really to show that with the right support as a family member or a friend of someone, you can help to reduce that feeling of shame in seeking that help. So I kind of want to segue, we're about to wrap things up here, but to move on with CCC, you guys have something big coming around the corner.
So we've had something big in the works. We are actually here in the near future, we're actually announcing on Friday to our staff our new name. So we are rolling out a new name. The big reason being is we're more than just counseling.
Right.
Again, there's stigma too. So having counseling in the name, sometimes people are like, I don't want to go to the counseling center. And we've also been found with our name that we've been associated, people think that we're a government-run center, which isn't true. Yes, we do serve Access Medicaid, but we take private commercial insurance, Medicare, EAPs, which is the employee assistance programs through major employers, and so we're for everyone. And so we want a name that encompasses that we're more than counseling, that we're not a government center, and that there's nothing to be afraid of to come in and see a professional.
Awesome, good deal. So stay tuned for that name as it is launched for the month of May. Yep. I'm sure you guys will have a lot of media out there to share what your new name is and to rebrand yourself in that way. Yes. Is there anything else you want to throw out there as we wrap things up?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, just stay posted. It's going to be coming out in May. It's very excited. We're excited about it. We think it's going to help the community even more, and people come in our doors because we need the help here. So
awesome. Well, you guys do a fabulous job. You help so many members of our community coming from the Safe House and forwarding a lot of our clients to seek services with you guys and the help that you've provided to them. Personally, I know how much of an impact you make in this community.
Well,
so
thank you.
Keep up with the good work, and if you or a loved one is in need of any assistance, please don't hesitate to give CCC a call. The new name will have that information hopefully in the future, but the phone number will stay the same. We'll have all that contact information at the end of the segment. So thank you, Christy.
Thank you for having us.
Of course. And thank you. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with our next guest. Welcome back to Compassion Speaks. Joining us now, we have Fran DAmato, and she is the volunteer coordinator for Hospice Compass. Welcome, Fran.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here today. We have kind of segued here. We were talking with CCC before you came in, and now we're kind of segueing to another need in our community that kind of gets overlooked for the most part. And so you're here to talk about Hospice Compass and what you guys are currently in need of. But first, let's jump into Hospice Compass. What is Hospice Compass? I don't know how many times I was going to say that. and what service do you guys provide to the community?
Well, as volunteer coordinator, I recruit for our families that have a loved one that is terminally ill. Basically, hospice has a lot of forms of different kinds of support that we provide. Not only the clergy, but we have the volunteer program. We have two branches of the volunteer program. One is our regular volunteers who visit the nursing homes. They can visit residential. It just depends on where the family prefers their loved one to be during the last period of their lives. Right. And they can give some care to the families themselves by sitting with their loved ones and allowing them to do errands or go to the doctor's office, whatever they need to do. It gives them a little bit of relief. The other thing is that we've got the other branch, which is the Angel program, and the Angel program takes a little bit more training. All of our volunteers are trained just like our employees, background check and everything. And then the Angel program gets a little bit more of the medical side of it, to know what to look for as the person is passing. They sit with them if there's no family or friends, and then that way they don't have to pass alone. They've got somebody by their side holding their hand and letting it happen naturally. The volunteers, like I said, they do assistance for the families as far as giving them a break, or they'll go in and they'll read, just chat. It can be 5-10 minutes. Some of the clergy will go in and they'll pray with the individuals, and it may only be 5 or 10 minutes, or it could be up to 2 to 3 hours, just depending on what the family and the terminally ill patient requires.
Right, and what they request too, I'm
Right.
sure, for their
absolutely.
reprieve.
Right.
And that's an amazing opportunity, and I know that it's an incredibly rewarding voluntary position that one can fulfill for a family, and particularly for a loved one that is terminally ill.
Right.
And gives them, I think, a sense of companionship, that there's someone outside of their immediate family, or if they don't have any immediate family, that's there to support them and be there for them in those last moments, to have that friendship with and that additional support from
Right.
is invaluable. And the way that I like to look at it, it would be, if my loved one was terminally ill, and depending on, of course, who it was in your family or your friends, you want as much support and help for them and positivity as possible.
Oh,
And
absolutely. And the nurses, the CNAs, the volunteers, everyone that goes to the homes, they do sometimes tend to get close with the families, but honestly, that's inevitable.
Yeah.
You are going to get close to them. This is a very dramatic part of their lives,
Right.
losing a loved one. So having that support, whether it be the CNA or the volunteer or our clergy, we also have volunteer clergy. So, and we also have pet therapy.
Oh, nice.
We've got some that are in training, and I've got a couple that do go and visit the facilities, and that brings them a little bit of peace and joy as well.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, all important things, as someone is transitioning through that period, it's our duty as a community, as extended family and friends, to make that journey as comfortable and peaceful as possible.
Absolutely.
So wonderful.
Yeah.
So you guys are looking to gather volunteers for not only the Angel program, but also just as the kind of the standard regular volunteers.
Right, and that's all over. That's Snowflake, Taylor, all the way to St. John's. And St. John's, Eager, and Springerville, that area is very sparse as far as the volunteers. I've only got a couple out there, and they're wonderful, but they can only be stretched so far.
Right.
So all over, we're looking for more volunteers. And then also, like I said, the Angel volunteers. The regular volunteers that come in, like I said, they go through the background check, they go through training, and the Angel program, of course, like I said, gets a little bit more training. But I like to make sure that the families understand that these aren't people we just, pluck off the street. So they go through significant training and background check. But it's a worthwhile thing to do, as far as being a volunteer, and it does take a very special person to do that.
Yeah, and I know that there's probably a lot of people who are watching today that can relate to this in one way, shape, or form of having a family member who's passed on that was terminally ill, someone close to them, or they know of someone who experienced that. So if you have any extra time and you want to donate that time to be able to help an individual in this community that we live in here, especially especially as you mentioned over there in Apache County, in that area, it can be very difficult to gather more volunteers. So if you live in that area, give Hospice Compass a call, let them know that you're interested, and you'll get the training that you need. And I can speak personally, having volunteered in a hospice facility or organization rather, back in Louisiana where I'm from. It is an incredibly rewarding position to be in, to have that ability to be that additional support and a listening ear and a shoulder to cry on, all of these roles that you can fulfill for this family that is going through this horrible thing in their lives for their loved ones. So yeah, please keep that in mind. And I know that there's always opportunities for people to support the Hospice Foundation. You guys have anything going on during the month of May where people can help to maybe monetarily contribute as well?
Actually, we do. We have two things that are going on. Excuse me, the Senior Citizen, the Community Center in Shoalo, is having a salsa competition. It's their first annual.
Nice.
It's going to be on Cinco de Mayo.
Okay.
And it'll be dinner, and the dinner is $8. If you want to compete, it's $25 plus a gallon of salsa.
Ooh.
If you come and pay $1 for the ticket, you can sample all of the salsas. So
sounds pretty good.
It sounds very good. And then at the end of, and that goes, and then the end of the month is the 5K, and that supports the White Mountain Hospice Foundation.
Oh, wonderful.
So there's several things that are going on right now. Any information that anyone wants, they can dial the 368-4400, which is the Hospice Compass number, and they will
get them in touch with the right people.
Exactly.
Good deal. So yeah, your 5K, that's been going on for quite some time. So that's a huge opportunity that people can get involved in. So
absolutely.
If you are actively either a walker, jogger, or runner,
or a sponsor,
exactly. There's so many different ways you can get involved, and that's a great opportunity to help to support the Hospice Foundation up here. Which what does that money go towards? The Hospice Foundation, what does that support?
There's so many things. It could be someone that's in need as far as a hospital bed or any, it just depends on the need, but a lot of times they'll step in and they'll fund it, which is huge for a lot of people that don't have the insurance, or they've got different kinds of insurance. So there's a lot to it, but they are here for the people that are on hospice and are unable to pay some of the things
costs
that they need, right?
Gotcha.
Right.
Well, and that's so important, because there's already so much going on in their lives, and to have the financial strain and have a need for the family or for the individual, it's just another burden. So
exactly,
having that ability for the Hospice Foundation to help to further support them outside of the services that you guys already provide to them, that's huge.
And we do have 2 additional services, and one is actually Chaplain Kevin Weaver, and on Tuesday afternoons at 3:30 he has the grief group.
Oh, wonderful.
And that's for people who've already lost their people, their loved ones. And then we will be starting up a family caregiver support group. That's still in the works.
Okay, well, something to look forward to if that's something that you need help with. Now, let me ask you this about the grief support group. Can anyone go to that?
Yes.
Does their family member have to have been?
No.
Okay, so anyone who is
anyone's
has
in need of that,
grief.
right? That support. They can call Kevin Weaver and at Hospice, and he can give them all the details. But it is Tuesday at 3:30, and it's open for anyone who needs that support.
Oh, that's amazing. That's a huge asset to this community as well, because I think there's, everyone has experienced grief to some degree.
Right.
They've lost someone close to them, or someone within their family, and as we were talking about on our previous segment, it can be very challenging for people to reach out for help. Sometimes there's a stigma attached to that, and this is a completely open support group for people who have lost a loved one, and they want to surround themselves with positivity and people who have also experienced it.
Right, exactly.
Very nice. And then the caregiver support group coming soon.
Coming soon.
So stay tuned.
Right.
We'll definitely have you guys back on so you can talk about that as well.
Wonderful.
And I hope we're able to have gotten you some volunteers. So again, you know, if you guys are interested in helping out local community members that are going through a very, very trying time in their lives, get in touch with Hospice Compasses. Let them know you're interested, and you can really make a difference in those people's lives and what they're going through.
Yes.
Good deal, Fran. Well, thank you so much
Thank
for
you for
coming on
having me.
today. I appreciate it. You take care, and you take care as well. Thank you for joining us today. Tune in next month to hear Compassion Speak.